Why does the ABC hate Israel so much? The anti-Israel reporting on the ABC is relentless this morning again.
The Israeli parliament is set to extend a controversial law banning tens of thousands of Palestinians from gaining citizenship, even if they're married to an Israeli. Critics say the policy's blatantly racist.
You'd think from the absolutely constant hammering that Israel was the worst country in the world, rather than the only true democracy in the Middle East. A country with terrorist neighbours like fascist Iran and Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, all threatening to destroy it. Well, the Jewish community here has really had enough now. There's considerable anger about the ABC lining up 4 critics of Israel, no fewer than 4, including a Muslim radical, on a recent Q&A show with only one Liberal MP, Dave Sharma, Indian descent, to defend it. This is the kind of hate Israel barrage the ABC put to air that night.
An occupier and a coloniser, a state that is based on a racial apartheid system. Israel is practising apartheid. Israel is targeting civilians. It's brutal military occupation. And the solution is impose sanctions on Israel.
You know, where there's innocent lives being lost and talk of, it's not apartheid, it's just elements of apartheid. It's not cool, you know. And we're trying to wipe out a culture here. You know, that's not okay.
Israel has been indiscriminately targeting journalists.
You saw over 200 Palestinians killed.
And now here is the one defender on that show of Israel, naturally being interrupted and heckled, for instance. It's Dave Sharma, Liberal MP, when he tried to explain who actually started the war earlier this year.
The proximate cause was that Hamas started to fire rockets at Israeli civilian populations. And that's
a lie.
Joining me is someone who was not invited by the ABC for a little bit of balance to that panel. Colin Rubenstein, the head of the Australia Jewish Affairs Council. Colin, you complained to the ABC about that program. Why was that?
We certainly did, Andrew, for the reasons you just correctly spelt out, that here was a program that was advertised as to discuss the Israel-Hamas conflict, and the panel they came up with, as you've just said, was 4-1, and no pro-Israel Jewish voice was included on that panel. So we felt, and it was broadly felt throughout the whole sort of pro-Israel community, and I think even beyond, that this was grossly imbalanced panel. And of all the many things we could challenge the ABC on, because as you correctly pointed out, there is an agenda there, an Israel sort of super critical agenda that Israel could do no right, that all the fault and all the responsibility for the woes of the Middle East rest with Israel and not with the Palestinians, who seem to be innocent victims, according to the narrative we keep on getting, and the so-called experts we overwhelmingly get on the ABC, there was no pro-Israeli Jewish voice on that show. It was left to Dave Sharma, who did an admirable job, but it was not his job there to represent the pro-Israeli point of view, even though he happens to be knowledgeable, former Australian ambassador to Israel. Now, that complaint was on the grounds that the ABC violated their own, lofty code of practice, which is more often honoured in the breach. That code of practice commits the ABC to notions like impartiality and fairness and accuracy and balance of diversity of views. And we felt we were on a winner there. But of course, we know how that process works. And we half expected that our complaint would be rejected. It was on the laughable grounds that they did provide that diversity of opinion. This is clearly a nonsense. And of course, it not only highlights the imbalance and the bias there, but it highlights the total inadequacy of the ABC complaints procedure, which is essentially an internal complaints procedure, which I could go into. Of course, they have this lofty code of practice, but time after time... They have
it, but Colin, I find it astonishing. So they want diversity, So where's the diversity in having two Muslims but no Jew to actually debate Israel and how wicked it is? It is amazing. But listen, Colin, you know, we've known each other, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. The ABC's coverage of Israel has been hostile for almost that entire period, as we've often discussed amongst ourselves. Can you explain why that is?
I wish I could, but it's essentially adopting this narrative taught perhaps in the universities, imbibed in the media, that somehow Israel is the party at fault and responsible for the failure of the Palestinians to accept 3 serious offers of statehood alongside Israel. And a failure to understand that their rejection of those genuine offers is because they're not really interested at the end of the day in their own independent state alongside Israel, but a state instead of Israel.
All that's so clear, but I'm going to suggest a couple of things. One, Israelis tend to be white, they're capitalist, they're Western, they're people of the world. And all those things you fall right on the wrong side of the big cultural war divisions at the moment. Colin Rubenstein, I wish you the best in fighting the ABC. I tell you what, you're going to get a bloody head knocking it against that wall. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.